Welcome back, y'all. This is another episode of Bosses, Babes, and Business, where a few of the authors that wrote this fabulous book got together, and we're here today to just really celebrate and share a little bit more about ourselves and about what we were going through as we wrote this book. So one of the things that I know that I did during this book was I got much more vulnerable. I shared some intimate things about myself that at first I hesitated. And I didn't know whether or not it was going to be something I really wanted to share because it was something that I was going through. It was something that I was experiencing. And at the same time, it made me feel like I was failing. So I say that to ask all of you. I'm going to start with you, JJ. As you were writing your portion of the book, was there something that you were afraid to share, but knew it was in your heart to share?
Absolutely. This is my first project of writing and with the ladies and just individually. And so the fact that I had to be transparent and vulnerable was a scary place for me. So I did hold back on some of the information of what to share, but I made sure that the foundation of what I wanted to convey in my message was there, which also made me have to be vulnerable enough and transparent enough to share that information, that personal information. But it was therapy all at the same time.
Yes. What about you, Christy?
Of course, because I want to always give off the look of perfection for myself. I always say, I have this self-diagnosed OCD. And for me, wanting to give off that I can carry it all has always been one of those things for me that made me in this book, be very vulnerable to let people know that I wasn't always perfect. I always had something that, was falling through on one side and I didn't accomplish on the other side. And I was trying to juggle all of those balls and there were balls flying everywhere. And I smiled through it all. And I should have actually been asking people for help and getting rid of some things here and getting rid of some things there, not having it all. And yeah, that was a scary thought for me because there were several people that thought, hey, she's got it all together. And I didn't.
Yeah.
That was very vulnerable for me because I didn't want anybody to ask me questions about that. So yeah, that was a scary thought. But I went ahead and I kind of put it out there and kind of found out that there were people that were in the same boat as me. That was refreshing.
Right.
And it was a weight lifted off my shoulders.
Crystal?
So my part of the book, I just feel like it was just a brain dump and therapy. So I didn't feel vulnerable. I felt excited because my other book just talks about all the craziness. So I was able to start my story of how I got started in business in this book, which was a humble, great, exciting beginning. And so those ups and downs and the roller coasters of starting that is going to be those first few years. But I think that was pretty normal. So it was good to talk about and just actually share it with the world.
I love that. I love that. And I say, I think one of the things that we all kind of shared with that is that in our vulnerability, there was fear. Mm-hmm. There was that fear of whether or not it was going to impact, whether or not we were going to get feedback, and whether or not it was truly what your calling was to start your business, right? And that fear often keeps us from plunging into what it is God has called us to do. Right. And so what do you tell yourself when you're confronted with that fear? How do you get past it when you know God has called you to more? God has called you to be more than what you've been. And that fear that's inside of you is telling you that maybe you're not cut out for this, or maybe you are going to fail. What do you tell yourself in those moments?
And so for me, it was looking back over past mistakes. I too, like you, am a perfectionist. I was a perfectionist. And my mom was nothing I did was good enough. And so I internalized that. And so everything I did had to be perfect. It's like the leaves on the trees during the fall. They're beautiful. They're different colors, but we all know eventually they're going to fall off because a new season is just around the corner. And so for me, it was that vulnerability that I'm walking into a new season, and things may fall apart and things may fall off. And we get to the place where we're holding on to what's comfortable for us. And so stepping outside of that comfort, that comfortability, to be vulnerable and to face those fears. For me, what I had to do was just look back on all the all the things God took me through that were way worse than just being vulnerable about my journey. And then, like Crystal said, it's our journey. I'm doing it right now. This is my everyday life.
Right.
And so I just get to share what I'm doing on a day to day basis. That it's my journey, and it's not wrong or right. It's just like we said, before. Exactly. Exactly. And so that for me was how I conquered those fears. Let's venture out into the unknown. Let's see what this will do. Let's see what my potential is. Let's see what I can do from this and accomplish from this. I have children and grandchildren looking at me and and I'm leaving a legacy of hard work, dedication, love, respect, all of those things. And they have a legacy of something that I left them that will last past me.
And what's funny that you say that. Another thing, the things that what are you saying to yourself when it comes to passing, forging forward past a seeming stumbling block? You have to have a mission and a vision. And you have to go back to whatever the mission and the vision is. You have to know what that mission is. You have to know what the vision is. And when you know what the mission and the vision is, when those stumbling blocks come, you go back to that Habakkuk 2:2 concept. Yes. Write the vision, make it plain upon tables. When people see it, they'll run towards it. And so you got to have something to keep you running towards, So my mission and vision is to publish at least 1,000 books, to leave the type of legacy that depicts inherited growth and development and family, faith, fitness, and finance, leaving that in the earth so that way when somebody looks up the names, that my name will be written in that book of life of creativity, where somebody behind me will be able to say, oh, when I go to the library of life, I can find something from my own community, which tells me how to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, as opposed to having to lean into other communities to get the results that I'm after for my life. And so whenever you feel that overwhelming thing that tries to come at you, you have to say, no, the mission is this. No, the vision is that. And it's the same concept. I was teaching Bible study on yesterday. I said the thing about the enemy is not going to lie. He's just going to tell you a part of the truth. And so when he came to tempt Christ, Christ had to know what the whole truth was in order to combat those voices. And that's what needs to happen. So when you talk about what are you saying to yourself, it's what the whole truth is, not that part that keeps replaying in your mind about, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able, oh, I don't know. Yes, you do, because you did this before. Yes, you do, because you ran this race before. Yes, you do, because you've seen this before. Yes, you do, because somebody else has accomplished it before. Oh, I never did this before. Oh, it doesn't matter, because somebody else has done it. Otherwise, it would not even be in your mind to do it, because you know that you can lean into somebody who else had that same experience, had those same blocks, had that same challenges, those same oppositions, and say, okay, they overcame it, so I can too. So sometimes what you need to listen to is just another voice that has already accomplished that which you're set out to do. So if you want to become a prolific speaker, listen to prolific speakers. If you want to become a fantastic writer, read somebody else's literary works that are fantastic, that inspire you to put pen to paper. And like I talked about in another show that we had, not copying another cat, but becoming the person that you need to be as a result of the inspiration you found in others. Because if you look at the word, you find all kind of inspiration, but you don't go and rewrite a scripture. Right. But you take the information from that scripture, right, and you will apply it where it needs to be applied. So that way you can combat the voices that go on in your head, those things that try to repeat themselves on as rapid fire inside of your brain, and you can shut those sounds down by telling it, no, the word says this. No, the word says that. No, I've seen somebody else overcome this. No, my mama overcame that. And so on and so forth. So you have to know how to have that mission and that vision readily accessible and available for you to be able to go back to to keep you on that beaten path to where you know you're going to win.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things too when we are confronted with that fear to go back to that why. Why did you start this? Why are you doing this? Who are you doing this for? And I think, even for me, I have to do that constantly. Just to stay on the right path, staying focused, making sure that my lens stays focused on where it is that I'm going, especially where God is trying to lead me. Right? And I think that part is where sometimes we off track. We allow distraction. We listen to the noise. We allow the chaos to, to turn our lens from focusing. Yes.
Yes. Getting off our path, but we have to make sure that we get right back on it and go for it. There are times when we get comfortable in the path and we get stagnant. There are times when we totally veer off, listening to somebody else. We lose focus on where we're supposed to be. But just being able to know that we're supposed to get right back where we're supposed to. There are times when we get off track that we really want something really bad. We've made that veer and we really want it, but if it's not purpose in God and where He really wants to see us, we will never be satisfied with it. It just makes us shake and move, and we're just like, man, I thought this was really gonna be satisfying for me. Nothing about it is being satisfactory. This is really not working for me until we get right back on that path, and then it's like, okay, you know what? Let me go ahead and do what I'm supposed to do and keep it moving. So, I've done that a few times, especially when it comes to jobs and things that I said that I want. I saw myself there. And it was like, yeah, I thought this was going to be fun, and it's not. So I've had to veer myself back on that. And things that I have to tell myself, I have to really remind myself, I see it for myself because I also have two girls that are looking at me on a constant basis, seeing how mom does it, and wanting to know how mom. They are looking for that example. So I'm constantly keeping that in my mind as well, and living in my purpose. They have their own purpose. They have their own path, and they're trying to make sure that they stay in their path and in their purpose. And when I veer off of mine, they're constantly reminded, and they can see me be unread and have unrest. So they're like, oh, well, maybe I need to stay on my path because Mama doesn't seem happy when she's not heard. Right. So let me stay clear. So they're looking for those examples. That's something that I make sure that I'm doing so I can be the example for them on how to do it.
And we have to learn how to keep away from magnifying the mistakes.
Right.
That is something that business owners struggle with.
Right.
Is magnifying the mistakes. Mull over it, go through it. If you feel like you're the type of person that has to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, do that. But once you identify the areas where you need to improve, just improve upon them and just keep moving. But if you magnify the mistakes, it will keep you in a place where you will never, ever see the type of results you want to see. The result is based on what you know internally has been a good job. Not necessarily what other people's perceptions are, but when you know emphatically that you did your absolute best, you put your best foot forward, you gave everything that you had, that was a good day. That was a great day. Right. That was a productive day. That was a phenomenal day. But then those other days when you see that you could have done things better, you could have taken more time, you could have worked harder or smarter, not necessarily harder, but smarter. You could have taken things to another level. You have to look at those days and say, why didn't I?
Right.
What was going on within me that prohibited me from doing that? Was I experiencing some kind of medical emergency? Was I just not on my game? Was I affected by something relationally? Or what external force stopped me from being able to manifest on this day? And then learning how to be certain that you understand when that stuff tries to come again. Oh, I know you. Right. I remember you. You're what stopped me for the last time. You don't get a chance to do that twice. No thanks, buddy love. Take care. But no. And then being able to do that and seeing it. It's like learning how to, it's almost like being in the military when you're going into combat. you have to understand the art of war. You can't be behind the 8 ball when somebody is coming at you to harm you. You can't be behind it. You got to be in front of it. And so if you know where the enemy lines are, you got to be able to understand how to define those lines, how to make sure that you protect not only you, but you protect all of those that subscribe and are attached to you. So that way, when that enemy shows up, you're prepared to combat whatever that force is. And that way you will be able to overcome that thing, and you'll be able to move forward to that next step of success in your brand and in your business. But you can't do that if you keep going back and magnifying the mistakes and just making the mistakes so big that they just overpower everything else good that you've done. Sometimes you got to do a pros and cons list where you sit down and write down, okay, what have I done that has been well? What have I done consistently that has worked? And then when you look at that cons list, it's not as big as you think it is. It's only in your mind where it's bigger. It's not really big. It's in your head. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things I talked about the other day was, just celebrating your wins.
That's right.
We lose focus of our ultimate goals or things we're not progressing because we didn't celebrate the small milestones along the way. So we always want to make sure that we're celebrating.
Absolutely.
So, again, while we're talking about making sure that we celebrate those milestones and we stay positive on the things that we have been able to implement in our lives, like what is something that stands out on you that you can say, I want to celebrate? Because this book helped me move forward. This helped me progress.
It's actually helped me decide that I needed to make a change in something that I thought that I was doing on a regular basis, the acting in front. I have actually gone through. I started in social work, and then I stopped, went into teaching. Been teaching for a while, and then got unsettled. Went back and got my license in social work now, and I'm excited about that. So I'm starting to figure out, you know what, I need to do something a little bit. So that's and hearing that voice of God and actually moving with that, getting my life coaching certification and not doing it. Hey, I did it over the weekend. I really dove into it, started a business. That is something that I never really even thought to myself to do. So those types of things, taking those big milestones on, just going in and venturing out, being something more than what I actually had planned on being, seeing myself in a different light. That's something that I've decided, you know what? This is what I'm jumping. I'm not just walking. I'm hopping, skipping.
You going on it?
I'm diving.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
That's my new thing.
Yeah, I think it's like we talked about walking in front.
Walking in my purpose. Just staying focused on it.
And knowing that we can do a job and we can do it well, but still not feel fulfilled. And so it's not until we walk in purpose, which sometimes is scary because of the unknown. However, when we're walking in purpose and we're doing that which we feel in our spirit, in our core, is what we should be doing, and it's in alignment with the Creator and what the dreams He's given us. We do it with passion, and then it's not work. Every day I wake up and I'm excited to and walk in this purpose and to make sure that even if it's just one person heard me or I helped one person, I did it, authentically, the way that God designed me to do it. And all of the other things that I went through on this journey was to get me here.
I even started writing another book. Never thought that I would write. I woke up one morning and things were on my brain and I just started. I got to wake up like 6 o'clock in the morning. Saturday morning. Gotta get it out of my head. I started writing another book. Who would have thought? It's something new for me. I feel this is something
it's always right
going on.
Right. It's always another thought. It's infinity doesn't cease. There's always another thought. There's always another idea. There's always another opportunity. There's always another thing that can be done to piggyback off of where you were. It's like the concept when we were talking about the baby, the process that a child goes through, these different building blocks. And even in adulthood, you still got more building blocks, more milestones, more building blocks, more milestones. And so, being able to build communities has been the most powerful thing that I've learned how to do, is just building communities and know that you're never going to run out of people.
Right.
Because the earth is replete with other humanoids.
Right.
So, the feeling of, oh, it's not enough people. No, there's more than enough people. It's just, how do you tap into that next set of people to build another community on top of the current community, and to just keep on building community, building community, building community. Because there's never going to be a time where there's not going to be another thought. There's not going to be another set of people that feel what you feel and believe in what you believe in and want to do what it is that you're doing. Whenever you start to really tap into relationship building, like forging forward. I tell people all the time, one thing that I learned from direct sales, and I always have held on to this: the power of the purchase is in the person, not the product. So that person, what is it that I'm giving to that person? How is this going to impact that person's life? And that person knows 12 other people.
That's right.
And there you go. There's a whole nother community that got birthed out of that one person. It wasn't the product. It was the person.
Yeah, the brain.
Absolutely. So as you learn how to build out communities, even the community of the intimacy of the family that you have created, they got communities. They got 12 people that they're reaching that you haven't tapped into just yet. And so understanding community and making certain that you tap into that person, and you're giving people something, like you said, a sound, a word, a statement, a something that is going to benefit them in the long run, that there is something that needs to be said. So that's the reason why it dropped in your spirit so heavily, because, this has got to be said. Somebody needs to hear this bit of information, and this bit of information is going to be transformative. The way that it's transformed me, even in this moment where it's being downloaded into my system, I know that when I share this out to someone else, it's going to be not only impactful, but it's going to be implementation to help them to get to that next place that they need to be in. And it's so important that we do that, and we build those communities and those families. But I want to switch the conversation just a little bit. I want to talk about some opposing things. We're talking about all the optimism and the wonderful aspects, but I want to talk about the boundaries. Interestingly enough, before we got to this segment, there was something that happened with you, that somebody just sent you a message about doing something at the last moment, and you had already defined what works for you, that window. You said, I need a 48-hour window to accomplish this specific thing that you're asking me to do. But you're asking me to do this in an hour, in 90 minutes, instead of 48 hours that I required of you. Now, you could easily say yes, but you stood on the power of no.
Right.
The power of no. It is it's an authentic word. It's a word of integrity. It's a word of self-preservation. It's a word of self-care.
Yeah.
It's a word of authenticity to say no, just no. I don't owe you an explanation. That's no with a period at the end, or no with an exclamation point, period. But learning how to establish boundaries and when to apply the boundaries that you've established. Well, listen, thank you so much for co-hosting with us today, Monica. Really appreciate you doing that. Ladies, thank you for your presence for this segment. We are so excited about your next steps and the next things that you guys are going to be doing. And for our viewing audience, be sure to tap into these amazing ladies. You can find all of them on social media. If you guys can go ahead and give your names as we exit so that they'll be able to locate you on social media.
I'm Crystal Saul. I'm Christy Thibodeau.
I'm Janitra Jackson Woods.
And I'm Monica Macias, and I am Monica Macias across all social media.
And I'm certified master coach P. Koffe Brown, and super excited. And that is Koffe. So there's a little bit of a catch to our brand name, but we are the same as well on all social media platforms. So thank you guys for tuning in and tapping into this particular segment. And we'll see you guys somewhere in social media land. God bless and be encouraged.